Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Do some kinds of cars have more emotional expressions than other sorts of vehicles? I've hinted at this in some, maybe 200 Science Moments ago. I was driving a stick shift at the time car. It was a Porsche Cayman, and I was describing the ways in which having the extra dimensions of being manual transmission, in fact, gives the driver two dimensions of emotional signals that is one dimension above what an automatic driver can signal to others. Now, signaling is crucial. Let me give you a brief excerpt from just one section of Dr. Tim Barber in my recent book, Expressly Human, Decoding the Language of Emotion, which is on the origins of emotional expressions, how they serve as a language before there ever was language for social animals to negotiate and communicate and talk and make all the things that happen. And really, that's the language we still speak. Now, let me just give you a section from that called Expressways. I want to motivate the importance of signaling in situations where you can't use language. And expressways, highways, etc., are great examples of that. And then in that light, I want to describe how motorcycles, which are always manual transmission, and then manual transmission cars, in fact, give you that full range of socio-emotional signals that we all know in our normal life. But when you're in an automatic, you're handicapped. You can't signal the full range of emotions like you can in a manual transmission car or motorcycle. So this is early on, first chapter of the book, trying to motivate where we're going. And the section is called Expressways. In fact, we don't have to imagine ourselves at some faraway fruit fly infested marketplace to realize that we might already know how to use an ancient language mediating social behavior. Would you believe that most of us do it every day without even knowing? Just consider driving. Unless you live in the remote sticks, you're on the road with other cars, lots of them. Roads are one massive example of human social behavior that gets done without anyone ever saying a word. Sure, you might yell a few words when the fellow in the convertible cuts you off, but he didn't hear a thing. Once cars become automated in the future, some central algorithm will be able to move millions of cars around with no need for any of us passengers to ever look up from our phones. But that's not our road reality now, where motorists are constantly signaling to one another. What kind of signals are we making when driving? Well, to start, our cars are equipped with turn signals, emergency flashers, and horns that are specifically designed for non-linguistic signaling. But our street speech goes considerably beyond that. If I'm behind you in the fast lane and you're going painfully slowly, I might flash my high beams at you. Cozy and tight behind you. Maybe downshift so that my engine is ominously loud and threatening. Begin weaving around or even shake my fist out the window. In response, you might signal at me by lightly tapping your brake lights, suddenly braking to force me to back off, maybe doing one super long, slow deceleration, conspicuously yelling into your rearview mirror, or showing me one of your favorite fingers. While road rage tends to get into news stories more often, most of the signaling among drivers isn't quite so ragey. We often signal someone else to go first at a four-way stop by flashing our lights, waving our hand, or nodding our head. And we might indicate another motorist can merge in front of us by conspicuously slowing down and leaving room. Notice, too, that we even manage to use our horn in more than one way, sometimes aggressively, heavy on the horn in a don't you dare merge in front of me sort of way, and sometimes in a friendly fashion, a couple light taps on the horn to say, come on, buddy, I'm letting you in. The next time you go for a drive, pay attention to the interpersonal details. You'll realize you're involved in dozens of such social interactions with other drivers. Each one has an exchange of signals of some kind, and not one of these signals involves a single word of actual language. That's why they're expressways rather than talkways. All right. But here I want to focus not on all these other kinds of signals of other modalities that we use in cars. I want to focus just on the sound of the engine itself, which is crucial for motorcyclists like me because we're always worried about not being heard, not being seen, so we want to be heard. And by having manual transmission, it gives us a much broader range of emotional signals that are possible. In fact, the range of emotional signals that we have with a motorcycle and any manual transmission is exactly the key emotional expressions that all of us have and understand. And I'm going to walk you through it here. But before I do, I want you to remember and notice that automatics don't have this ability to change the gear ratio, as I'll talk about. You don't have the ability to be going some particular speed and choose to be at a high rev versus a low rev. You don't have that choice. The car makes it for you. One entire dimension here is thereby missing for automatic transmissions. You don't have the ability to fully signal. You are in some sense socially dumb when you're in an automatic vehicle. This is one of the reasons that motorcycles and manual transmission cars they don't just look more fun. They sound fun. They sound more emotional. They've got all of this energy and vibrancy and personality because the personality of the driver can come through in the sounds of the engine itself. Let's hear the sounds of the engine as a function of all the different emotional expression dimensions that there are. Dr. Mark Janghese here. We're going to go through some motorcycle sounds and show how different states of the motorcycle, it can be any stick shift engine in fact, but how different states of the motorcycle correspond to the two-dimensional space of emotional expressions in response space from Dr. Tim Barber in my book, Expressly Human. So we're going to cover just the two dimensions and it concerns how the velocity of the bike relative to the gear that you're in, and that's sort of the vertical axis, and then it also concerns sort of how much acceleration you're undergoing by keeping roughly the similar gear ratio. So I'm just going to walk through and you will hear the sounds for each of the 8 directions relative to baseline. We're going to start off with sort of left-right, aggressive being accelerating, and conciliatory being decelerating, and then we're going to move to vertical, serious versus casual, and I'll talk about each of those, and then we'll hit the 4 corners. So let's see if we can turn the bike on. Okay, let's get it turned up. So we're doing a sport bike kind of sound here. Let's get it up to speed. I'm going to put it into first gear, get it going to some reasonable speed. Let's get up in third gear as if we're in a small neighborhood. Okay, I guess we're in fourth gear now. Let's see if we can pull it back a little bit. Alright, so we're just going down fourth gear, and let's suppose suddenly I want to be aggressive. Maybe I need to pass somebody, and so aggressive would be something like this. Alright, so that was aggressive. Let's bring it back down to fourth gear. Alright, so we're back down. Now let's suppose we're back in fourth gear again, going on a relatively small street. And now I want to be conciliatory. Maybe I'm slowing down to let somebody out in front. And again, we're going to stay in a similar gear ratio, which means before I was speeding up and I was actually upshifting as I went so that my gear ratio stayed in the same proximate range. Now I'm going to be slowing down by engine braking, and I'll be then downshifting as I slow down so that I'm again in a similar gear ratio as I go. So suddenly I'm going to slow down. Okay, so that was the sound of being conciliatory, the opposite of aggressive. Let's get it back up to speed again. Alright, I'm back in fourth gear. Now, let's consider vertical. In vertical, the difference is between serious and casual. In serious emotional signals, once things get serious, there's a lot more on the line. Any disagreement there costs a lot more social capital. The amount that you're putting at stake is much higher. It's as if each of you is ready to abandon the discussion and instead fight about it. The similarity here is that when you're more serious, there's a lot more activity on the road, there's a lot more dangers. Typically what you'll do is you'll be at the same speed, but instead you'll be at a lower gear. You're at a higher ability to have jerk or change in acceleration is greater. You can both decelerate more quickly and you can accelerate more quickly. In the change from being able to go from low acceleration to high acceleration is a greater ability in this state. So let's hear what it sounds like. And this is, again, we're focusing on what the signals, what does it sound like to others? So again, here's a baseline state. Now I'm suddenly getting serious. I'm going to downshift, and I'm not going to increase or decrease speed, just, right? Now, when I do want to increase or decrease speed, it is much more quick that I can do it. I can make, just by pulling off the throttle and accelerating, and make big changes to the acceleration in a very jerky, quick fashion. I'm going to downshift again, right? I'm in second gear when I really should be in fourth gear. I can make very quick changes. Let me up gear and get it to calm down a little bit. So now we're back to fourth gear. Let's let it calm down a little bit. And instead, let's suppose that I suddenly were to now upshift. This is saying, okay, things are relaxed, things are casual. There's no reason to have the ability to quickly change my acceleration or change it up or down. So let's say I'm sitting like this. Suddenly I'm going to just upshift. That change, people will hear. Other cars will hear, okay, he's more relaxed, and I can upshift again. Now I'm in sixth gear in a road where I'd usually be fourth gear. It sounds much more relaxed. But if I downshift, again, I'm indicating I'm in serious mode. Pay attention to me, because I'm seriously paying attention to you guys. Again, upshifting, I'm casual. Right? That's the difference between aggressive and conciliatory, which we did first, and then serious versus casual. Now let's consider the case where let's downshift to fourth gear, more of a small road, medium-sized road. I'm in fourth gear. Now let's do along the diagonal of me being more confident, me showing pride, versus me showing humility. And so this is along the diagonal. In the case of pride, it's me being both more serious and being aggressive. So let's see if I can settle it out at a particular value here. Now suddenly I'm going to downshift, showing I'm more serious, and I'm going to accelerate. Right? So here it's going to happen sort of all at once. Alright, it happened. I'm going to go ahead and re-upshift and bring it back down. Then the opposite of that is I'm going to be more casual, and I'm going to raise the gear. In other words, I'm going to I'm going to decelerate, and I'm going to raise the gear. That shows that I'm more casual, and I'm decelerating. So I'm showing humility in this case. It's the opposite of pride that I just showed. So suddenly I'm going to upshift, that's showing I'm casual, and I'm going to decelerate. And here we go. Okay. Now let's downshift again to get back in fourth gear. Now the other dimension concerns not the strength of me so much as, in some sense, my judgment of your strength. And so this is the opposite. So this is where respect is where I show that I'm serious, but I'm also decelerating. It's as if I have to slow down because you're a big truck and I respect you, and I'm not going to try to get in front of you or tangle with you. So let's get to a baseline speed. I'm in fourth gear. I'm going to suddenly downshift, showing that I'm serious, but instead of accelerating, I'm going to engine brake almost fully. Ready? So let's see, let's get it to baseline. I'm going to suddenly downshift now and engine brake. Ready? All right. That's the sound of engine braking. Strong engine braking when I first did it. That's showing respect. I'm like, okay, I give up. I got to slow down quick. I might brake as well, but there's no sound with braking. But the engine braking is really obvious. And let's go back to fourth gear. The opposite of that is disdain. Instead of showing respect for you, I'm going to be disdainful, thinking you're not a big deal for me to worry about, and I can become casual, and I can accelerate, even though I'm in a higher gear, which is less able to accelerate. So I'm going to be like this, and suddenly I'm going to upshift and accelerate, which shows that I'm casual and being aggressive. Here I go. And there it was right there. Let's go back to fourth gear and pull it back down to fourth gear. So we've gotten all 8 directions relative to baseline, all of them concerning the aggressive and conciliatory dimension, the serious and the casual dimension, and combinations thereof. Let's just accelerate out of here to finish. Start. down here. Let's see. Now I'm going to show some respect, and suddenly I'm going to show pride.